It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. For those of you just returning from the holiday break and you weren't with us last night or maybe the latter part of December, welcome back. It's good to have you with us here on Sports Talk. We missed you. We got through it without you, and we are moving forward towards the national championship game on Monday night. Let me just say this right off the top. It's hard being right all the time, but I did say Ohio State should have been the fourth team in the college football playoff. And Georgia, let me just say this about Georgia. You know, even though they lost and they have 3 losses, I mean, just watching their performance, I still feel like they should be in the national championship game. Just how I feel. Just a feeling about that. So
is that it? The eye test, they passed the eye test?
I think so.
I don't think Ohio State beating a subpar Washington team tells me anything about whether or not
always put down the opponent when a team wins. Maybe they just played better. They were better prepared. It's got nothing to do with a poor Washington team. They went out and took care of their business and looked good doing it. And I think they would have given Alabama a better – well, Oklahoma gave them a fight. Ohio State would have had a little bit of a defense maybe to throw at Alabama as the 4th seed.
They lost to Purdue.
Everybody except for Clemson,
Missouri beat
Alabama
Purdue.
Loses to somebody.
But it's almost – the way you see it now with these teams, Clemson and Alabama are where they are because unlike other teams, they don't have that one hiccup that they have. Ohio State, every year you could take a dartboard and throw it and hit a team. Yeah, that's the one they'll choke to this year. It's just one they take 2 bye. Ohio State has 2 bye weeks every season. The bye week where they take the week off, and the game where they take the week off.
And when they play Michigan, because they beat Michigan 13 years in a row, whatever the heck it was.
Yeah. All right. So today, media day up at Clemson. Will went up there for that. Any major news? Anything on the suspended 3?
Nothing on the suspended 3. We should hear something by the end of the week, or at least even maybe prior to the time that they depart on Friday for Santa Clara. The only real injury to speak of is defensive back Mark Fields, who did not play in the game on Saturday against Notre Dame. They didn't need him. They were able to contain Notre Dame's offense with relative ease, especially with play in the secondary. Nolan Turner got himself an interception, but Fields has been kind of in and out of the lineup. Remember, the one game he was suspended. He was in a yellow jersey for most of the bowl practices, at least most of the ones that we could have seen, and we didn't really see much of the open practices when it came to things with the Cotton Bowl. So from that standpoint, that's really the only injury. But as I said before, and as I've said all across this time that we've been talking about Clemson, they're about as healthy a football team as they can expect to be or ask to be at this point of the season, with, of course, now the notable exception of not being with Dexter Lawrence going into that game, which I don't foresee again, just given the way they've been acting, it doesn't seem like he is going to be available this week or the other two guys.
Am I the only one that worries? And maybe I've gotten to be an old fuddy-duddy. Am I the only one that worry about this game not being in a dome? I'm just the elements in Northern California this time of year are strange. I just hope we don't have
fog.
Have deluge or a fog.
Well, they had fog in the ACC championship game, if I remember, right?
Yes.
Clemson Pitt played in a deep fog.
And it was not only a deep fog, but it was raining the entire time. It was miserable.
That's a good point, though. Out in San Fran, in January, you don't know what you're going to get.
No, you don't.
All right, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. We'll take your phone calls. We have interviews from up a Clemson way. Got a little bit of Nick Saban we'll drop in on you as well. He spoke with the guys at ESPN, so we'll bring you about 2 minutes of what he had to say about Clemson. This is an SC Wild Night, the first one of 2019. Captain Billy Downer, coming off his holiday respite, will join us at the bottom of hour number 2. A little bit of recruiting coming your way as well. Again, the phone number, 800-956-7266. And as we talk about some other things, the good news for South Carolina yesterday was Donnell Stanley announcing he's coming back. If you weren't with us last night, we had an exclusive interview with Donnell on Sports Talk from California, where he is with his family on vacation, and he shared with us his reasons for coming back and his expectations for 2019, which are very, very high. You can chuckle at that if you want to, but you give the man credit for A, coming back to be with his boys for another year and trying to do something special, and B, believing in what they're doing at South Carolina and believing that they can do something special. I tell you what, you might say the schedule is too tough, and it might be, but it does set up to let you do something special if you can get to that level to do it.
That's the sales pitch of it, side of it, Corn. But the reality of the matter is it's going to be very, very difficult for South Carolina to even have anywhere near the aspirations it had going into this year, not only given what they thought they had coming into the year with their depth and the way things were, but also given what they have to play against. And, that's just kind of where they are right now as a program. That doesn't mean that development can't take place over the offseason or over the course of next season. A loss to Alabama in the first month of the season might not be reflective of what we see in October and November. But if you're looking at it on the second day of January off of a 28-0 loss in a bowl game against Virginia where it looked like the team played uninspired, you look at next year and you can't say anything other than, ugh.
Wait a minute. Aren't you the one that last year said, well, South Carolina beat Michigan. Don't put too much into that.
I didn't say that, but I also didn't think that the team was going to quit like they did against Virginia.
But I will say this: I want to give Virginia all the credit in the world because, as I said before, when we talked before we went on the air, I thought Virginia was looking for something to hang their hat on after losing to their rival 15 years in a row. And they Bronco Mendenhall needed something. Don't worry about 8 starters injured or arguably your best offensive lineman. He'll go in the recruiter's home. We just dominated an SEC team. You know that, don't you? See, they needed something, and he got it. Congratulations to him and the history of South Carolina football, and Phil will back me up on this, other than the Spurrier era. South Carolina usually plays well in those seasons when everybody's giving up.
Yeah. Well, they've somebody, I think it was Josh Kendall, wrote the article. Apparently, it was either Kendall or Ben Bryner in the State. Forgive me for mistaking who it was, but they had the record of South Carolina the year after a bowl loss, and it's usually pretty good. But you look at what's on the slate. It's Alabama. It's Georgia. It's all this stuff that sits in front of you. Clemson coming to town as well. And a lot of the road games, too, aren't exactly gimmies. And even the ones at home aren't gimmies. So from that perspective, you also have to thwart off some unfortunate history against schools like Kentucky, Texas A&M. And you really have no room for optimism there.
All right. And also from a South Carolina standpoint, of course, we're still waiting on some words, some announcements from Jake Bentley and Brian Edwards. You would think that by now we would have heard something, but nothing as of Wednesday. What are they contemplating? What are they thinking about? Does this delay mean that they are seriously considering not returning, or are they just busy relaxing and getting away from things for a few extra days? The other thing to keep an eye on with South Carolina is the situation at Georgia Tech with their new coach and USC defensive tackles coach, Lance Thompson. They have history together. And, Lance Thompson is known as a traveler in college football circles. he has made 8 moves since 2000, or an average of a little over a move every 2 years, give or take. So it would not be surprising to see him to be on the move again. I actually thought he was going to bolt after last season because I think he had some overtures from Tennessee and other people.
You saying he's a leaser, not a buyer?
I would say so. I would say so. But you know what? If that were to happen, I think Will Muschamp has the answer sitting about 25 miles away, and that is Brad Loing.
Everybody seems to that seems to be the popular pick. I ask you all why.
Oh, because Brad, when he coached at South Carolina on 2 different occasions, he was very, very popular, not only with the fans that he interacted with, but with the players, and a heck of a recruiter, an absolutely total, dedicated, never rest, get it done recruiter. And a get it done recruiter means he's the guy that goes in and gets it done, however it needs to get done. Not suggesting anything. I'm just saying he got it done. And you need that kind of guy on your staff when it comes to these tight recruiting battles. Okay, we'll be back in just a moment.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. I did want to just add one more thing on the Lawing speculation with Lance. And again, in the interest of full disclosure, Brad, good friend of the program. We've had him on before. Might have him on again. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying anything to disparage him or what he would bring to the table. I feel wary about taking a guy who is not necessarily presently employed and not as interconnected in the circles of the recruiting from that perspective.
And Pro would say?
I would say the big thing about Brad Lawing that everybody around.
No. What'd you say a minute ago off the air?
What?
About the guy up the road.
Oh, we were talking about Dabo Sweeney was out of coaching. He was selling real estate.
I can promise you one thing. Brad Lawing is still very tightly connected.
I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just saying
that's still very tightly
from an image standpoint.
And the people around here remember him because sometimes it's not really the recruiting, it's what you do when you get a recruit. And Brad Lawing was an interesting character, and he knew how to push Jadeveon Clowney's buttons. In fact, Clowney to this day swears by Brad Lawing.
He also developed Robertson, who he got out of North Carolina. Remember him? Came in as kind of an undersized defensive lineman, went on to the NFL. Melvin Ingram was his guy. Developed him. I mean, he is a first-class coach and recruiter.
I just worry about
fan favorite.
I just worry about when I hear from the mob about one particular guy and they all circle around one guy. I don't like adhering to the mob. I don't like adhering to the mob.
Well, I mean,
that makes me feel a little wary.
If it comes to that, Muschamp obviously will have a list of people.
Of course, you will.
I'm just saying you got one right down the road. All right, couple of quick things. We start looking a little more now at college basketball as we get to conference play. But tonight, two state teams are in action. Upstate is at Georgia Tech, and Presbyterian plays at South Carolina State. And also want to mention that Limestone defensive back Joshua Simmons named the 2018 D2 Football All-American team for the second time in his career. Was it the receiver from Limestone who made the big catch in a game in the NFL like last week? One of the big games? Help me out here. I think so.
I can't
recall. He was the free agent who worked out for the pro scouts at the USC Pro Day and turned in a blazing speed and ended up either being drafted late or was a free agent. He caught a touchdown pass, was big for somebody.
I do know that Darius Leonard got a pick in last week's game for the Colts.
Darius Leonard is rated the number one rookie in the NFL.
Well, he should be the defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, led the league in tackles, I believe. I mean, he was all over the field for the Colts.
What an amazing story. Yeah. And A.J. Oliver, the former Clemson guard, is now at Old Dominion. Jeff Jones announced that today. Didn't realize he was the coach at Old Dominion. Jeff Jones, a former Virginia player and
he's
coach.
Been around.
And ESPN's PR machine saying the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl delivered very high ratings in terms of games not being played in the semifinals or on New Year's or on a weekend. Says here that the Rose Bowl delivered a 9.7 overnight, up 3% from last year, 23% from 2016. And the Sugar Bowl, a 10.9. The Sugar Bowl, a 7.8, up 28%.
They're actually
from last year.
They're actually working to sell the copies of those games to a pharmaceutical company as use of a sleep aid.
No, but Georgia, Texas. That's
I stayed up for. I loved watching Georgia go down. Loved it.
Georgia, Texas.
I mean, I liked watching it too, but it did make for a very interesting game.
I still feel like they should be playing for the national championship just based on feel.
Georgia and Texas will draw an audience, and everybody was looking at Urban Meyer's last game.
That's not his last game. Don't fool yourself. That is not that guy's last game.
You sure?
He's only 52 years old. He's going to coach again.
I know that, but once the wife,
I don't want to say what I'm going to say.
Once the wife
what I'm going to say is going to be very insensitive.
I'll tell you what, though, he did not. His post-game comments on the field once again did not put him in a very positive light. As he referred to it, that summertime thing that he was going to. The guy's just insensitive to that situation, just totally insensitive.
I have nothing positive to say about Urban Meyer, so I'll refrain to speak about him further.
Well, once his wife looked like she was definitely saying, "I want coaching out of his system," and she looked very serious.
Spencer in Florida. We roll to the phone calls here on January 2nd. What do we call January 2nd? It's not New Year's Day. It's not New Year's Eve. It's January 2nd.
It's Hangover Day.
Spencer, how are you?
The feast day of my
and I'm through wishing everybody a Happy New Year, so we're not going to go there.
Right.
Welcome in, Spencer. How are you?
All right, gentlemen. First of all, I want to say Happy New Year to all of y'all.
Click.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
And God's blessings upon y'all and your wonderful families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. Okay. About Ohio State, the man who said, I think it was Mr. Phil Kornblue, about Ohio State should have been in the Final Four. You have great intelligence, sir.
I said that before, too.
Great.
I said that on the day that the four were announced.
But
leading
is there
into
a
it, I
but?
said my four.
Is there a but?
Yes.
My fourth would be Ohio State.
Yes.
There is no but. But,
Say, can I finish real
Go
quick?
ahead.
yeah.
Okay, thanks. And it's not because I'm from Ohio State. It's not because I was born in Columbus, Ohio, which I was. But Ohio State beat Penn State. They beat number 4 Michigan. What it is, the committee who votes on who goes to the Final Four, they just don't like Ohio State because they should have been in. I mean, easy over Oklahoma. I mean, no contest, But, you got to pray for people because them boys, them men, whatever, need praying for, and
Well, the
Ohio
problem.
State would have beat Alabama.
Well,
They
I don't
would've
know. Come on.
and thank you for your phone call and the well wishes. We really appreciate it.
Spencer been hitting the
Yeah, the
sauce.
problem is, and you mentioned it earlier, one of you did. I mean, the loss to Purdue was so bad,
I said that.
and also the struggle at Maryland was scary.
Yeah.
But Clemson had a struggle with Syracuse. They just didn't lose to anybody. They managed to find a way to win.
Well,
I think Syracuse is better than Maryland.
But does some of the
Yeah.
Syracuse won 8 games this year.
Yeah, but does some of the
I think
committee
they won their bowl game, did they not?
They
That's
did,
9.
yeah.
9 wins.
but does some of the committee have the memory of elephants and is really still holding that shutout egg they laid against Clemson
I think
couple of years
I think
ago.
that very much factors into it.
Thank you for your phone call. Britton in Rock Hill, welcome to Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
Going good. How you guys doing?
We're great. Thank you.
I had a giant cat in my hand. I just want to say something about, the whole playoff thing. I really think, I honestly think Georgia probably should have got in. I think the biggest problem that they had was that they were going to have to play Bama again. And I just think that NCAA, the selection committee, they didn't want to do back-to-back games. But, every time I get on Twitter, the only thing that I read is that people are tired of watching Clemson and Bama play each other. I give you a solution to that is to beat one of them.
True.
I mean, we got beat last year by Syracuse. Clemson got beat last year by Syracuse, but they handled their business outside of there. Nobody, everybody hates Clemson and Bama playing each other. We'll beat them, and then
Same
you don't
thing I
have
said
to.
about Golden State and LeBron. I mean, that's the way that thing all went down, and like both those teams had their opportunities to lose those series in the NBA playoffs. And
Well, here's the difficult thing about them. If you go to the playoff, those players and those teams have so much experience in the playoff
right.
that they know how to handle that situation. You can almost tell when Bama and playing and Oklahoma to a less extent had some experience. In fact, you saw their coaching staff just light into them on the sideline after Alabama went up 21-0.
Well, Notre Dame looked like a team not only that was overmatched, but a team without a plan. And Clemson looked like a team that had been there before. Notre Dame looked like a team that hadn't been there before.
Well, here's a thing to remember. If you're tired of it, if you're tired of round 4, probably get ready for round 5 because the two best quarterbacks in the country will be back at these respective schools. They are loaded and they are young in many, many areas. They're going to be able to withstand their losses. And, I mean, there's just – you look at Clemson's schedule next year, yes, there is Texas A&M on there.
At North Carolina is going to be real tough.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is get ready for a 5th. of Alabama and
Maybe.
Clemson.
Or grab a fifth.
I'm gonna say a fifth of what? Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. I had something I was going to say, and I totally forgot.
All right, 800-956-7266. We'll save you.
No, because you were talking about something else and threw me off.
Our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. We've got some email to get to.
Oh, no.
And on Twitter at SportsTalkSC, we've got some Twitter to get to as well. But let's go to Hank in Columbia, and then we're going to hear from Trevor Lawrence. And I think Will did ask the question that has gone unanswered all year that we'll get to in just a little bit.
Correct.
Trevor Lawrence says, we are panting to get to that answer.
Really? You didn't use that correctly after hearing it for the first time yesterday. Pantsing.
No, that's I said panting.
Okay.
Now, panting's a different word,
Gotcha.
which I actually know that word. Yes. All right, let's go to Hank in Columbia. Hank, how are you? Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hi, Quan. I'm doing fine. I was calling. The thing for Will with Lawing, though, is that Lawing is even when he's done some of these other shows, he's aware of many of the recruits that we have on campus. If he would do the D-line, because he recruited them at Florida State before Jimbo left. But also, Lawing coached with Muschamp at Florida.
Yes,
So they've had a familiarity. Yeah, so that, he, I think the same, there's a lot of fans that like him because of the actual success he had here, and the fact that all of the players a lot of the Pro Bowl players for Carolina right now swear by him, which can only help recruiting. But also it's just the fact that I can tell you he's probably as connected with coaches in this state in North Carolina as any on our staff right now. So.
Ain't no doubt, man. You want somebody who can go into North Carolina, into some football hotbeds like the Charlotte area or into Havelock, North Carolina, where he has recruited players before. Into the Rock Hill area, which is you got to recruit the Rock Hill area because they always have talent. So I'm just saying, if it comes to pass, to me, it's a
no-brainer.
Yeah, common sense, quick phone call, save the money on the moving expenses kind of deal, and get it done quickly. Because if it were to happen, I mean, South Carolina's still recruiting a handful of players,
right?
And they need everybody on board, and of course, they're getting into the 20 class too now.
I'm not necessarily saying it's bad. I'm just I want to hear the other side.
All right, we go to Billy in Columbia,
Somerville.
I'm sorry, Somerville. Billy, welcome to Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
I'm good. Happy New Year, to y'all. How y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, I got a couple comments, and I'll hang up and listen because I know you got a busy show. The thing with South Carolina, this time around with the bowl game, I thought was just horrible play calling all the way around. I don't think I've ever been as ticked off in one game before, and I don't tell people how I feel, but I can't even talk after the game because I feel like it was an embarrassment the way they played. If you want to say it, they played. I don't even think they wanted to be there. Like half people say it. It's like they were just going through the motions. I think it was an embarrassment all the way around. If something that doesn't happen soon, then they are going to be in trouble next year because looking at that schedule as a whole, if they're thinking they're going to do something special, I'm sorry, they're going to have to do some changes because they might be lucky if they even beat Appalachian State. And I've been a Carolina fan for 40 years, and it was a hard one to swallow. I think I was more ticked off about that game than I was in the Navy game in '84 because it was just embarrassing. Telling me they couldn't score any points in that game when you got 4th and inches on their side of the field, and you throw a rollout pass when the quarterback's on a bad play when all you got to do is try to run it up the middle, and you got 3rd and 1, the same thing. It was just horrible to see, and that changes don't happen soon, and Muschamp might be looking for another job too. As far as the game coming up, as far as Clemson, Alabama, the way I feel about everybody knows I don't like Clemson, but they do got an offense, but Alabama's got a defense. If Clemson jumps out to an early lead on Alabama, then Alabama might lose the game because the defense has been suspectful in some games. So if Alabama jumps out to an early lead, then Clemson has to play comeback. Trevor Lawrence hasn't played that type of defense yet this year, and he's not going to be able to run up on down the field on Alabama like he has on these other teams. And I'll hang up and listen, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you very much. Well, listen, I mean, no team wants to fall behind Alabama and then have to come out of its game plan. You're right. I mean, Clemson's got to play well early. They've got to take advantage of whatever opportunities they can get to get touchdowns, not field goals. But, I mean, in Clemson, you are talking about a superior offensive team. I know in Alabama, we're talking about a superior defensive team. It's going to be a great clash of two strengths. Really both ways. Alabama's got a superior offensive team, and Clemson's got a superior defensive team. This is why we've got 2 undefeated teams. We're going to have the first undefeated 15-0 team in the history of college football coming out of this thing.
What is the difference between the way that Clemson played the last 2 games against Alabama? They were able to handle Alabama's first punch 2 years ago and stay with them and stay in the football game. They were not able to do that last year. I think that's the key going into this year's game.
Well, I think also the difference, too, is Alabama cannot put 6-7 in the box and try and cover Clemson man-on-man in the secondary.
They cannot.
They have to respect what Trevor Lawrence can do throwing the football, and then that should create, with decent blocking, some running room for ETN.
Well, the key point with Clemson is they've improved on special teams, because that's what got him the first time.
Don't tell Hughley that.
No,
Hugel.
but that's what
Hugel,
that's what got him in the first championship game was special teams gaffes, including the kickoff return that really padded Alabama's lead. But I just think in a game like this, Phil, the team that makes the big mistake is the one who's going to lose it.
Clemson had its media day today up at the Poe Indoor facility. I had a chance to talk to a bunch of players, including Trevor Lawrence, and I started out by asking him, how do you normalize the process when it comes to preparing for this game? How do you keep this process normal? How do you normalize the process of this game?
I mean, it's pretty normal. It's as normal as you can get just as far as a game week. You know, you don't have as 3-4 weeks like the Cotton Bowl to prepare for it. So it's just, we're kind of back to our normal routine as far as just having a week to get ready. So, I mean, we're just going to do what we always do, prepare the same way.
A bowl game requires spending a lot of emotional capital, the time off and preparation time. How do you flush that or make sure that that's flush by the time you guys get back on the field and make sure that you guys keep that edge?
Just making sure everyone's taking care of themselves, not just their body, but also like mentally, just getting sleep and, resting and really getting ready to play our best game up to this point.
Last week I asked you what keeps you so calm. You said it was all about your childhood. I asked T the same question. He said it was the hair. How much of that is just kind of more just the calm demeanor with you?
I don't think that does much for me, but that's funny though.
He was saying guys try to steal your shampoo.
Yeah, well, everyone always asks me for some, but they ask me for some soap, and I'm like, oh, it's shampoo. And they're like, I don't need that. They want the other soap. So, but that's funny.
Are we at liberty to know what kind of shampoo it is, or is that just something you're waiting on an endorsement deal for?
No, Pantene. So,
Trevor, with or without Dexter Lawrence, would you like to see that bridge package still be something you guys can use?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we still have, and we made some adjustments, and we'll be ready for whatever situation we need to, if we need to use that or whatever it may be. So, yeah, we'll be ready.
Have you ever caught yourself thinking these last couple of days, this is crazy? I mean, this is playing out exactly how I thought it was going to play out a year ago when you showed up here at Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. I took a little bit of time after the Cotton Bowl to kind of reflect and think, like, wow, this is about to play a national championship next week. So, but I think now it's to the point where you kind of put that off for a minute and just go to work and get ready to play this last game. And then, after that game, you can sit back and think about the year and how everything went down, and really just think about everything that happened. So, but right now we're just trying to get ready.
What have your teammates told you about playing Alabama?
I mean, everyone knows they're a great team, and kind of how the last 3 years, we played each other, and they've been good games, and it's just always kind of been back and forth. So I think for a game like this, you just gotta, you just gotta have an edge, physically, mentally, some way, because as far as like the playing field is so even, because they're such good teams. So I think it's just, coming out there mentally ready, and obviously, they're a great team physically, and they got a lot of speed everywhere. So I think it's just, coming out ready mentally would be important.
Do you allow yourself? That is a little bit from Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I just want to say, talking about Greg Hugel, the place kicker, he's missed 5 field goals this year, has not hit anything over 49 yards. And so that's what I was talking about in terms of their special teams.
And the punting's been terrible.
But Alabama has had they've had issues with their place kicking, it seems like, for years. Yes. Their place kicker, whoever it happens to be, has always seemed to be a little bit wild. All right, we'll be right back.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Well, it's funny, we were talking about endorsement deals and things of that nature. Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs just signed a brand new deal with a ketchup company after saying that he likes ketchup on everything. Maybe Trevor Lawrence can get himself a Pantene Pro V endorsement deal when he gets to the league.
Wouldn't be surprised if he keeps the hair. But
course,
as guys get
also
older, look at Chris Silver. You get older. Chris Silver has cut his locks.
I'm not taking any responsibility for the lack of Pantene that can now be found or not be found in Greenville or upstate area CVS's or Walgreens.
Well, my preferred hair treatment is Suave.
Is that a fact?
Very good.
It's good.
Get it for $1. I get it for $1.
Shampoo you can get.
Get it for $1 a bottle. It's great stuff. I don't see any difference in that or the stuff that cost you $20.
20, really?
Okay.
How much do you think? How much do you think?
Since you got it on the subject, what is your choice of a hair product?
My hairstylist gives me something. I just use it. I just pump down the money and I say, okay. People like running their hands through my hair.
We're rewatching the South Carolina-Virginia game here. I just saw the 4th down play on USC's first possession.
Still haven't converted on 4th down.
Dowdle still should have caught that ball. I mean, I know it was high, but just seeing it again from the end zone camera, went right through his hands.
Yeah, you got to catch it.
Went right through his hands.
You were talking about Clemson's special teams. Big part of that, of course, a big part of Clemson's defense is defensive end Cleveland Ferrell. He talks about how big of an impact that can be on the game, as well as going into another college football playoff against a team like Alabama.
I always, in my mind, felt like we can get back to the national championship. But with right being, because every year that I've been here, we've been in the playoffs. So I never really thought about, none of that stuff that, you see guys opting to not play in a bowl game or not finishing out the season. But I haven't really.
You never entered your mind around here, right? Because you're going to be playing for something.
Right, exactly. You know what I mean? And that's kind of, I don't want to say that sounds privileged, but I just know the work that we put in. I know the type of success we could have had the show.
There's a phrase, it's lonely at the top. And I'm wondering, as you see this same team at the end of the road every year, do you ever often get the feeling like, okay, it's kind of just us and then the rest of everybody, like that kind of Dabo talks about the Roy bus and things of that nature. How hard is that to keep out of your mind?
I don't think about it at all because I know it's a new team, regardless of the fact. We're not the same team from last year. We're not the same team from 2 or 3 years ago. And that's really how you got to look at it, because just because you're facing the same program, you're not facing the same team. That's who's going to walk out on the field, not the Alabama team that won the national championship last year. It's going to be a new team that hasn't won a national championship, just like we're going to be a new team that hasn't won anything but an ACC and the Cotton Bowl when we walk out on the field Monday night. So that's just how I look at it, man. It's a new challenge, and both of us got things that we want to accomplish. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the team who wants it more. So,
what common threads are in the games that you've played? What stands out as a common thread in the games you've played them against?
Just the physicality. Both teams are built from the inside out. It starts up front. You don't win in the trenches, you're not going to win the game. And special teams in this game is huge too, because usually the offenses and the defenses are very even matched, very skilled. And the way the special teams works is, both games we played them, we've had maybe somebody has a big return, somebody has a turnover on his punt team, or maybe somebody has kicked a great field goal, or maybe somebody returned a kick return for a touchdown. So special teams is always going to be a deciding factor in the game, but it all starts up front in the trenches, man. You got to win the line of scrimmage.
When you see Tua, what are your impressions having watched Tua on tape?
Great player, great quarterback. He's a very he's not a lot of college quarterbacks nowadays are, dual threats, but I feel like, he can make plays with his feet, which is something that makes him even better. But I feel like his arm, he's a special arm type for sure.
When you look,
and he's not a game manager. A lot of times, not including Jalen Hurts, he was a guy who can make plays on a run with his feet. But in the past, a lot of times people would give Alabama quarterbacks that title of game managers, but he's like a game changer, I would say.
That is Cleveland Ferrell, and again, special teams, big part of this. That could be the equalizer here when it comes to these two teams, because of how evenly matched they are on both sides of the traditional lines.
Offenses and defenses look so similar, so talented. and it's going to come down to ball protection. You saw last night in the Georgia game how Georgia was very loose with the football. A guy that never fumbles, Swift, fumbled a couple of times, I believe. Changed things, gave Texas
ETN fumbled in the game on Saturday.
Yeah. So protecting the football be big, and
Clemson
not
had
doing
a fumble on special teams that lost.
Not doing dumb things like the Georgia punter went down the field to punt, had his knee on the ground, dead ball. That gave Texas great field position. You cannot do that. Either team cannot do that in this game. You cannot just hand over points and field position to the opponent here and expect to win.
Well, you know, the key point with Clemson is you got to keep Tua in that pocket to minimize his lack of height, because the key to Tua is he will hold the football. And I think Clemson can get some sacks Monday night because of the fact that he holds the football sometimes too long.
But you wondered then about, and that's true, but is Venables going to identify a spy on his defense, a linebacker, and keep him from rushing? And just say, you just hang here in the middle of the field and you just go where he goes. And that would allow the defensive front to maybe put some pressure on. And maybe Clemson feels like, of course, Alabama's offensive line is awfully good, but maybe they feel like they can put pressure with their front four, occasionally blitzing somebody, but keeping somebody home in the middle of the field to track where he goes and not allowing him to find that open lane.
Hard to do.
Let me hit you up with some recruiting. In hour number 2, the M&M boys will be here. And, of course, this is an SC Wild Nights. We'll have Captain Billy Downer here, bottom of the next hour. We'll also hear in the next hour some comments from Nick Saban on Clemson. If you were not with us last night, I'll just recap the one recruiting note that we had from last night, and that was really kind of big news nationally. 2020 quarterback DJ Uiagalelei. Uyung. We've been practicing this. Uiagalelei. Bellflower, California. Uiagalelei. Yeah, I think that's it. Uiagalelei.
That's the one.
Yeah. Anyway.
Still not going to get it right.
As Don Williams once told me, Kornblut, there's only one way to pronounce somebody's name, and that's the way they pronounce it.
Yes.
You might think it would be this way or that way, but it's how that person pronounces it.
Interesting.
DJ Uiagalelei of Bellflower, California. His final 6, but there's really 7. His 7th school is Mount San Antonio Junior College in Walnut, California, neighborhood school. The more serious candidates, Clemson, Oregon, Oklahoma, LSU, Alabama, and Georgia. He has been to Clemson twice. He watched LSU practice last week, and, of course, LSU went out and got themselves a nice win in the Fiesta Bowl the other day. So those are his schools. Defensive lineman Jaquez Sorrells of Winter Park, Florida. He's at the Under Armour game this week. In a diary for USA Today, he wrote his top 3, as we have been telling you. USC, Penn State, and Alabama. Has an official with the Gamecocks on the 18th, the Nittany Lions on the 25th. 2020 offensive lineman Seth McLaughlin of Buford, Georgia, named a top 5. USC, Clemson, Alabama, Michigan, Oklahoma. 2020 receiver Zavian Capers of Alpharetta, Georgia, released a top 10. Clemson, USC, Florida, Arkansas, Syracuse, North Carolina, Michigan State, Duke, Virginia, and Georgia Tech. In basketball, USC offered 2020 6'8" Isaiah Cottrell of Las Vegas. Some other offers are Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Florida, Illinois, LSU, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Virginia, and Washington. And USC also offered 2021 6'6" Taquan Woodley of Camden, New Jersey. This according to the Del Val reports. There you go with recruiting. Remember to check it out on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. And on Twitter, use the hashtag STRecruiting. Watching the South Carolina-Virginia game on replay. Have the Gamecocks scored yet?
Wow, that's savage.
Well, I'm just wondering.
It's very asking. Are you asking for a friend?
Asking for a friend. All right, we will be back with the M&M boys. Can't wait to hear what they have to say. It's Sports Talk on a Tuesday night. No, it's not. It's a Wednesday night. No, it's a Tuesday night.
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Wednesday night. SC Wild coming up for you at the bottom of the hour. So we invite all you outdoors folks to hang around for that, as we have Captain Billy Downer here with us in our studio to kick off the new year in the great outdoors here in South Carolina. But right now it is time for this edition of the M Boy. We don't have but one M with us tonight so far, and that would be, of course, you know who's going to show up tonight. It's the one, the only, Will Merritt. Good evening and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well, Phil. And I wouldn't have missed tonight for anything in the world. I've actually been sitting next to my phone since 4:30 waiting on your call.
Wow. And the phone sounds really good. You must have gone back to Walmart and gotten an upgrade.
I did. Well, I got a brand new Kimball soup can with a new string. So everything's good to go on my end.
So what is your guess about where Corey is tonight? Because we've not been able to hunt him down.
Scared. Just scared. Just straight.
Just got a message from him. He said, tied up at the moment. Give me a few.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's coming. He's coming for you.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, listen, Virginia gave him a few. They gave him a few. So, yeah, I would be anxious to hear his take on that tail thrashing that they took.
Well, before we'll hear from him on that, but let's talk about the Tigers and their performance in the Cotton Bowl and the good and the bad. Did you see much bad in that performance, or all good?
It was really hard to say that that's not the most complete game they've played this year. I know they've won by greater margins this year against some other teams, but against a quality opponent like Notre Dame, a team that was undefeated, a team that came in completely sold on the fact that they were going to knock Clemson off their pedestal, and then the Tigers just took it to them. I mean, yeah, it was a little bit of a slow start to the game, but once they got rolling, I mean, there was no stopping them. And had that game been 8 quarters, it would have been 60-3. I don't think that Notre Dame did not have any answers for our offense, and it does give you some type of confidence going into the national championship game. And I'm excited to be out in Santa Clara. We're flying out there Saturday morning, and I'm going to get to see some of the guys. And I just talking to them this week, talking to some of my old teammates. There's so much confidence that they had going into that game, and I tried to articulate that the best I could last Wednesday after talking to Street and Coach Scott and all those guys. But you never know until you go out and perform. I mean, Phil, you know this game better than anybody. Until you go out there and make the plays, you can speculate all you want to. But the confidence level that is with this coaching staff and the confidence level amongst the young players that are going out and making plays, I'm not talking about just our quarterback. I'm talking about a lot of positions. Go out there completely sold on the fact that they are supposed to dominate games. And I don't think Notre Dame I don't think they had any answers for them.
Well, that's kind of leads me to my next question, Will. How surprised were you that Notre Dame couldn't provide any resistance, especially after that second quarter?
I was very surprised. I anticipated us winning the ball game. I thought we would win by double digits. I thought it was going to be like a 10 or 11-point win. That's kind of what I've anticipated. I don't think anybody thought that there was going to be a 4-touchdown win over Notre Dame. Just hearing them talk throughout the week and their confidence level going into that game, that really shocked me. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. If you go back and watch it, in that third and fourth quarter, Notre Dame gave up. They gave up in that game. I mean, and granted, Clemson was handing it to them, but they were downtrodden on the sidelines. I did not see a whole lot of effort from them in the fourth quarter. And it just did not look like the 14-0 Notre Dame team that we've seen throughout the year.
Now, we talked about this before the game, that Book, with his lack of height, that Clemson would try to keep him in the pocket and get a good push up the middle. Yeah. Do you see a similar formula with Tua, because he has this propensity to hold the ball a long time, which could mean some sacks for Clemson?
Well, I think they will have some success getting to him. But now you got to also remember, Alabama boasts one of the best offensive lines in the country and one of the best offensive lines we've ever seen. So granted, it's strength on strength in this game, guys. I mean, you're talking about an offensive line that knows how to block, knows how to protect, and you're talking about a defensive line that knows how to get pressure. So this is big on big. I mean, and I think where Alabama is strong, Clemson is strong. And where Alabama might be a little weaker, Clemson's a little bit weaker. So I think it's a really, really good matchup for Clemson. And I'm not sitting here telling you that it'll be anything like the Notre Dame game, because I don't anticipate that by any means. But I will tell you this. Clemson's going to go into Monday night expecting to win the football game. I can promise you that.
Talking with Will Merritt, and hopefully I expect we'll have Corey after the break, so just hang in there with us, everybody. So this is round 4. Do you think these are the best Clemson, Alabama teams that have faced off in the 4?
I do. I really do. And that's a great question. I think that Deshaun-led team was a pretty good team, though. Don't get me wrong. 2016 was a special year for Clemson football, outside of the one hiccup against Syracuse. But I think if you look at the body of work this year, guys, I mean, it's hard to argue with a team that has not, only really one game was there even a scare, and that was the Syracuse game. Outside of that, there's really not been a whole lot of scary football games for this team.
And that was kind of scary, Will. I mean, that was.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I stand corrected. I stand corrected on that. Yeah.
Sorry.
You're right. And that was early in the year, and they were still trying to find their footing, and you had the quarterback controversy and all that kind of stuff still going on there. But guys, I mean, let's just face it. I mean, Lawrence he's settled in as a superstar already, and I think that Trevor is one of these guys that. I was just watching an interview with him on ESPN yesterday. He doesn't sound like a freshman by any means.
Yeah.
He just doesn't, and he's not. He doesn't look like a freshman on the field. I mean, everybody knew he was going to be good, but I'm not so sure you could have anticipated the leadership quality that he's brought to that offense.
Who do you think is going to be the best player on the field? Just the best player. I mean, you talk about the quarterbacks, you talk about Furl, you talk about Wilkins, you look over at Alabama. You talk about Moses, you talk about Judy, the receiver, or Ruggs, or Christian Miller. Who do you think is going to be the best player on the field?
I'm gonna answer that 2 parts. I'm gonna say the best player on the field to me will be Clelin Ferrell. I think he's the best player on the field. I think the most important player for Clemson is Travis Etienne. I think the ability to have a running game just allows this offense to flourish. And he had a slow start the other night, but I mean, you saw what happens when he gets a crease. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen a lot, but I am saying if they can establish the ground game, that opens up this offense to be able to call anything they want to. And so that's a 2-part answer there. I think Clelin Ferrell's probably, with Dexter Lawrence being out potentially, I think Ferrell and Wilkins, those 2 guys have to have a huge game. And I think they will be 2 of the best, 5 players on the team. Now, Alabama's boasting some great players as well.
But Nick Saban, since he's had this run, Will, the team inside the SEC that has scared him the most, as far as Alabama is concerned, is Ole Miss when they had all their weapons throwing deep. So if you're Clemson, do you stretch the field with T. Higgins real early when you first get the football to try to put the fear of God in those safeties, then try to run the football?
No question about it. And I think what you'll see a very similar attack that you saw in the national championship game a few years ago, where you had all those weapons for Deshaun to go down the field. And I think what you're going to see is whether they complete the passes or not, guys, whether they have these big, huge plays to Higgins or like, look at what Ross is doing and look at what Renfro's doing. I mean, you've got ability to throw the ball all over the field. Even if you don't complete the passes, stretching the field is going to be absolutely paramount in order to make those linebackers and those safeties bail and have to honor, these great wide receivers.
All right, hang on, Will. Our hope is to connect with Corey here during the break. Hopefully he has finished up what was holding him up, and he'll join us for the next segment. And you can ask him some questions if you'd like, and we will hear his thoughts on the Gamecocks, but primarily, I guess, on the Crimson Tide as well. We'll be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. As we continue here, I've kind of had a feeling I knew where Corey Miller was. He might be where I'm going to be later tonight because he's been talking about this place that I'm going later tonight. But we appear to have found him. He has at least been reached now by us.
Yes, and I think that this calls for a special introduction for the Pastor of Pain. Hey! Hey!
It's usually reserved.
He thought the Gamecocks were going to beat Virginia, and he thought Clemson would lose to Notre Dame, but he was wrong. Pastor?
Started out well, but it didn't it?
What do you have to say for yourself, sir?
Out.
And Will Merritt is waiting to hear your response to all of that.
Oh, you know what? That was one ugly performance by South Carolina. But again, you know, when you lose that many starters, and then you don't play well on top of that, you know, your best players on offense take care of those guys that play well, you should lose. I mean, they deserve to lose. And, you know, Notre Dame, boy, geez, they're terrible. But with a good win for Clemson, and they move on, and we'll see now. This will be, they climbed the mountain. You get to the mountaintop, we'll see.
Maybe maybe Clemson's at the mountaintop, and Alabama's climbed the mountain to get to Clemson.
Phil, you don't believe that. But, you know, Alabama's at the mountaintop. They're the kings of college football, bar none. It's not even close. I know we want to keep making these comparisons. I mean, you know, but we're going to see. That's one thing I love about this game. We're going to see. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm not going to talk smack. I don't have to. But we're going to see.
Can I make reference? Go ahead, Corey.
Say it again?
Go ahead, Corey.
I said, at the end of the day, you know, if they can beat Alabama, they deserve to be national champions. But they're going to have to beat the best team that's been the best for the last 10, 12 years. So we'll see.
I'm going to make reference to something you said earlier, Corn, about Georgia. This guy, Jack, just hit us on Twitter. I think he might be listening to us on The Roar. Mm-hmm. He said, Phil Kornblut on Sports Talk just feels like Georgia should be in the national championship game. This solidifies that he is indeed a complete idiot. It was a bit. He was being sarcastic.
Yes, people, listen more closely.
He was being sarcastic. He spent the entire month of December bashing Georgia and people who said that they deserve to be in the top 4. Come on, Jack.
Yeah, I was just playing off what Herbstreit said after the selection, that he felt Georgia looked like the team and felt like the team that should be in the Final Four. And
come on, guys. Let's forget. You got people taking these bowl games serious. Bowl games, you don't put no stock into that. Everybody wants to compile the records. And these kids, listen, I've been in them. I know what it's like. These kids, bowl game is a reward. Guys go have fun. You got to lay over. You got to lay off. You know, anything can happen. I mean, so, you know, it's Georgia was one of the best teams in the country. And I could promise you, had they been playing Clemson in the college football playoffs, players would have played that should have played the best players, and not then I'm getting ready for the draft. You can't put any stop because it's easy to see that this team was not motivated. Texas, yeah, they want to make a statement. That's why they yell and scream up for Georgia. That they get into the place where, hey, we're disappointed we're not there. And it showed. They were tweeting about it, but they didn't play. They spent too much time Bourbon Street and in the casinos and using their money to gamble on blackjack.
Oh, come on. Now, listen, Corey, you know, I love you to death, man. And when you talk football, I listen to what you say. Same thing with Will. Every team that loses in a bowl game that's not in the playoffs, it's not because they weren't interested in being there. I mean, everybody, I'm so sick of that. I am sick of that.
You're not in the locker room. You're not talking to these players. I have been. I understand. These guys are uninspired. You
so they're just wasting everybody's time. Then time and money. The fans that travel to go see these.
Get rid of these bowl games. All these bowl games are meaningless. I'm just trying to tell you.
So it's a fraud. You're telling us every game except for the 2, they're just frauds. Everything else is just a fraud except for the semifinals.
If you're not in the college football, plus in certain games, Kentucky, it meant something to you. Other teams that may. You know, like I said, from Texas, they were inspired.
It meant something to USC to beat Michigan. My God, they played the video of Muschamp saying all gas, no brakes like a gazillion times on their Twitter feed.
But my point is, but Phil, Michigan is not going in that game last year looking at South Carolina. If they beat South Carolina, there's some big check mark. They don't care. I mean, it's like beating South Carolina means nothing to Michigan. This is a program of great status. That means nothing. But for South Carolina to beat Michigan, that's a big thing, right? For Texas to beat an SEC team like Georgia, everybody thought should be in the playoffs, and they had a chance to make a statement. That meant something to the program. That's why they're out there saying, we're back. Listen to this.
Virginia beating South Carolina is big for Virginia?
Yes.
They're both
SEC school. Yes, it's an SEC school. And it means something because the ACC is trash. I've been saying it the whole time.
Will Merritt has been very polite through all this. Or either he fell asleep.
I just have to adamantly disagree. I mean, I played in 4 bowl games. Of course, this was prior to the college football playoff, but the bowl games mattered to me. They always mattered to me, not just because it's an extra game, it's an extra opportunity to showcase. But guys, I'll tell you, my experience in bowl games were absolutely a blast. Getting to hang out with your teammates one last time, getting to be relaxed and go play teams that you typically would never be matched up against. I just disagree. I think the bowl games, there's a place for the bowl games. I think it's still special to make it to a bowl game. I think it's an opportunity to showcase your younger talent. I think it's an opportunity for coaches to be able to maybe take some chances that they normally wouldn't take in the regular season. I think that the bowl games matter. And granted, they don't matter as much as the college football playoff because it doesn't yield the national champion. But I can promise you this, I just disagree, man. I mean, I never played for a national championship, but I did play in quite a few bowl games, and I loved every one of them. As a matter of fact, the lesser bowl that I ever played in was the most fun I've ever had in my entire life in Boise, Idaho. That was the most fun trip I've ever been on with my teammates. Wow. And the bowl game, it mattered. You know, it mattered to go out there and play well and to showcase your team on national television. So I adamantly disagree.
Don't tell Woody Dancer that was a fun trip. He wanted to be home the day he got out there.
I have a question for both guys real quick. Obviously, you two are on opposite sides of this. Where do you think that the team that you are pulling for can take advantage of the opposition? First Corey and then Will.
Well, for me, it's just the secondary of Clemson. I mean, they've been exposed numerous times, passing the ball. So I'm sure that's going to be an area of concern for Clemson. And of course, the tight end, which O.J. Howard in both games really was a problem for Clemson. When they try to focus so much on the run game or taking away those wide receivers, the tight end became a problem with Jerry Smith, one of the best tight ends in the country, probably first round pick. But again, you have to pick your poison, and that's what Alabama's going to have to do against Clemson. What they're going to want to take away the run. That's their number one thing. They don't want to give up explosive plays, and then can that young secondary, the young corners at least, match up on the outside will probably be the biggest concern for the Alabama defense.
Will, you got a minute?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to 2016 and say it's going to have to be a similar approach for Clemson. You're going to take some body blows. You're going to take some punches. Alabama's going to be electrifying at times. You got to just weather those storms. You weather those storms against Alabama, hang in there, let it be a four-quarter game, and then that's how you beat them. And that's how they beat them in 2016. And in my opinion, Clemson's number one way to have success against Alabama is for our front four on defense to continue to get pressure. If we get pressure and we make their quarterback flush out of the pocket, I know he's great on the run. He's good. He's a mobile quarterback. But if our defensive line and linebacking core have a good game, Clemson can win this thing.
Hey, real quick, Corey, what is Christian's status for the game?
He's day-to-day. I mean, he's working and, of course, getting a lot of treatment. And, again, we are definitely a lot of prayer and believe in God he's going to be ready to go. And that's what's going to happen. I'm believing that's going to happen. And hopefully that won't be the last time we saw him on the field. I don't like, that being carried off for his last game. So we believe in God for healing. And right now, prayer has been working. He's considerably better than he was. And so we still got 4 or 5 days. So I think, with the staff down there, they do a great job, the best in the country. And I'm hoping he have a chance to finish off with the confetti and the trophy in his college career. Guys, we can't thank you enough. We appreciate you. Happy New Year. Enjoy the build-up and the game on Monday, and we'll talk to you next week. Roll Tide.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
I want to see those two together in Santa Clara since they'll both be out there.
Yeah.
We got to get them together for a picture.
You can catch up with them while you're out there. You are going, aren't you? We'll be right back.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
So excited to have another year of SC Wild here on Sports Talk from DNR. Captain Billy Downer in the house with us once again. Hope you had a great holiday season, enjoying what you like to do indoors and outdoors.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We hadn't said that enough already.
Yes. I'm tired of saying it. I
am
quit
too.
saying it
I'm
after
good with it.
midnight last night. It's good to have you back with us. A lot of stuff going on all over the place, including outdoors. But this weather, here we are in the mid to upper 60s again in January. What's that going to mean to everything?
It means it's warm, time to head to the beach.
Yeah. How about from a hunting standpoint?
From a hunting standpoint, that's what I put down. I said waterfowl season continues through Sunday, January 27th. The story here is rain, rain, rain. Water everywhere, and not a duck to find.
You know, that hasn't changed like in our last 3 or 4 shows.
It hasn't.
You've had to deal with the fact of the rain and the high rivers and the swamp
Has
waters.
it had a negative impact, I'm guessing, on everything?
Well, what it does is there is water everywhere. So ducks don't have to look for somewhere to land in the water. There's so much water, it spreads ducks out. They're not concentrated, so it makes it harder, particularly on wood ducks, which is in South Carolina, probably one of our number one is our number one duck in the bag. Very popular with guys to be able to go out with their families and swamp bottoms that are everywhere in our state and have a good day shooting wood ducks in the morning. But problem is the water's everywhere. Yeah. They're in bottoms. They're in flooded fields. They're in ditches that are flooded out into bottoms now. I mean, that aren't normally flooded. They're everywhere.
And there's no relief in sight, is there?
No, rain today, rain tomorrow, rain through Thursday. I mean, through Thursday, Friday even. Next week, coming again.
Who do we talk to about that? God, I know.
That's correct. And you know what? The problem with that is we got to be thankful when we get the rain because there's going to be a time when you're going to be praying for rain later.
Are we out of a drought situation in our state?
I would have to believe we have to be.
Yeah. You know, I was down at the coast a week or so, a few days before Christmas, and I mean, the Wateree, way up.
Oh, yeah.
The Waccamaw, way up. The PD, I mean, once again, kind of like it was, not quite like it was when it was flooding after the hurricanes, but way up.
We went past the Catawba Dam, going to take her to Charlotte to fly out to the airport. My daughter taking her to the airport, and water pouring out, rivers swelling. I mean, it's just everywhere. Wateree's up, all the rivers are up, full of water. So
what does this do about fishing in those particular bodies of water?
When water is extremely high, particularly in river systems, when they're flooded, they're muddy. You're not going to catch fish in muddy water. It's just not going to do very well. Things have got to settle back down. Now, muddy water does create lots of fertile environment for the spring and for your fishery for the spring. It puts a lot of nutrients into the water so that the spring will be probably pretty good after a flood like that. This for brim, bass, spawning is going to be a good season, should be.
Let me give the number, 800-956-7266. Any question you have for the captain about the great outdoors, 800-956-7266.
We rolled
with the
calls
new
last time we
year.
were here.
Yeah, with the new year means new laws in many cases. And I'm just wondering, when it comes to a DNR and things related to hunting and fishing, do we have any new laws going into effect here with the new year?
So our legislative season's back open now. Of course, so that's the time when laws get created. Of course, turkey season is going to be one of the items that they're going to be discussing. Looking at our turkey season coming up for the next few years, so making a decision based on what our departments reported for the turkey season, which has been a very in-depth study over the last 3 years. To give the legislators all the information they need to make an informed decision.
What can you surmise might change if you were handicapping it from your
side? Right now, I could not surmise anything because I have not seen the report. But I do know that it was a very worthwhile study. They got a lot of useful information out of it. No, it sounds like a great report for you, but it is. It's going to be interesting what comes out of that as far as our turkey season moving forward. A lot of different thoughts. Of course, there's people on every side of the fence. We want to go back to 5 birds. 3 birds is where we need to be. Some people, it's just like anything else, people see a lot of turkeys in their area. They think turkeys are doing great across the state, but that's not necessarily the case. Other folks are seeing a downtrend in turkeys. So you have to look at the numbers.
In the legislature, the people making these decisions, Are they hunters themselves for the most part? Are they from areas of the state where hunting is popular? I mean, who's on these committees? Who's on the committee that comes up with the legislation that DNR has to enact?
So that's a great question. Of course, all of our legislators are not hunters. That's just, if you look at population dynamics themselves, we talk about hunting as something that is a small part of the population. So you can't expect your legislators to be any greater picture than what we normally see out there. So you've got that, but we have subcommittees. And the subcommittees, the people that are on these different subcommittees basically are put on those subcommittees because they have an interest in that item, or they may have expertise in that item. So we have a wildlife subcommittee, and the folks that are on that subcommittee are interested in hunting and fishing. They have a great respect for that. They know what our department does, and they're great for being on that committee. So I would have to say that the subcommittee is where that that knowledge base is.
Looking forward to see what they come up with. So going back to waterfowl season, the overview of the hunting season, and you have a breakdown on how things have happened in the various areas of the state.
Sure. Milder weather over the holidays has not helped much. It's back to 68, 70 degrees in the daytime.
Love it.
Duck hunting just yesterday morning, swatting mosquitoes, a great morning for that. When you're out there sweating, walking through the marsh, and mosquitoes are flying around buzzing, and you're swatting them, and you're not seeing many ducks, it just makes for a frustrating morning.
Are the mosquitoes bigger
than
normal?
It blows my mind that they can come out the day after a 28-degree day. If it turns 68 the next day, there'll be mosquitoes out. I don't know how they do it. They're one of the most prolific creatures that are out there. Yes, but the water was frozen the day before, and yet the next day they're out. So
you can't leave the mosquito to water, but
okay, here we go.
Not the same thing.
No.
Let's talk about some waterfowl reports. Our Category 1 areas have continued to be pretty successful. Last week, reports are this. Top area was the Cape at Santee Coastal Reserve with an average of 5 ducks per man. The top duck in the bag was Gabwall with the northern pintail at distant second. Blue wing and green wing teal were in a close third. The next highest average came from Murphy Island at Santee Coastal Reserve with 3.5 ducks per man. That was Gabwall being number 1, Northern Shoveler in a different distant second. Third place, Springfield Cut at Bear Island with 2.8 ducks per man. Blue wing teal took first there with Northern Shovelers in a close second. Model ducks took a third place. So if you're looking for a trophy duck on one of our category areas, pintails would have been over at the Cape. And then you got Gabwall also at the Cape in different areas there of the Cape or at Santee Coastal Reserve. And then your model ducks at Bear Island seem to be the place for those.
And New Year's brought an end to deer hunting
Deer season closed.
Always
January.
a sad moment, isn't it?
Closed yesterday. So the cars are now what's in season. Phil, you're
right.
Up to bat. Drive your car
up to the cars to take care of business now, huh?
There you go.
Believe me, I'm looking for them everywhere I go.
So I said warmer temperature mosquitoes plagued deer hunters throughout the state the last few days. Again, sitting in a deer stand last night to close it out myself. Kind of a slow evening. It being as hot as it is, deer are not as active when it gets warmer. But this weekend, Saturday, the 5th, is a statewide youth hunting day. It's a youth deer day. A youth age 17 and under can participate in this deer hunt. Youth hunters who have not completed a hunter education course must be accompanied by an adult age 21 or older. If they have completed hunter ed, they can hunt by themselves. Either sex deer may be taken. That means bucks and does. The limit is 2 deer this coming Saturday for youth only, and tags are not required.
For that killing of the deer via car, you don't offer a particular insurance policy through the DNR for that service, do you?
No, I do not.
I will say that my insurance company, the 2 times I bagged a deer with the front of my car, stepped up big. No problem.
I don't know if
in fact, the last
I don't know if that's the same kind of thing.
The last time I hit one, about 4 years ago, I didn't stay at the scene. Do you normally stay at the scene?
Stay at the scene.
My car was still operable, so I was able to drive back to Columbia. It was up at Clemson. It was at the Clemson USC game.
You mean you got and hit a deer and you had to hit and run with a deer?
Yeah.
How could you do that?
Well, it didn't blow out my tires, and it didn't make all it did.
The car is still drivable. The patrol basically hands what they call a white copy.
Yeah.
You can go to the office after the fact and get the copy of the white.
Well, I did that with the insurance company. They saw some of the deer marks on the car. They took my word for it. All right, we'll be right back. More here on SC Wild.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Into another year of SC Wild here on Sports Talk, starring the captain, Billy Downer. We're just here for the ride. So if you want to jump on board, 800-956-7266, question or comment related to DNR, the great outdoors, hunting, fishing, anything else, archery.
Archery.
Anything else you want to talk about with the outdoors, the captain is here. So we talked about deer season being closed. A bunch of seasons are opening up.
Yep.
What's ahead?
Still open. Dove season's still open through January the 15th. Actually went on a nice dove hunt over the holiday break with my neighbor. This time of year, you're looking at migratory birds, big flocks coming through in fields. They'll come in for a couple of days and move out. So changing weather patterns, front coming in, you'll get birds move through, cut soybean fields. Some of your people that still have your dove fields out there with some standing corn that you can go out and chip corn on to get some fresh corn on the ground. That may attract some of these migratory birds in. But again, you got to prepare ahead of time for that. But also, again, if you get to a cut bean field, or you can find these birds out in these fields this time of year as well. But they're not going to stay here. They're here today, could go on tomorrow. But so dove season is open through January 15th. Rabbit and quail season will remain open through March the 1st. Don't see a whole lot of quail hunters anymore, but it is still open.
Why is that?
Well, the great years of quail in South Carolina have kind of left us behind because of. We could go into a whole show on that with people calling in.
I lament the fact that we don't have any quail here anymore.
The quail.
You like quail to eat?
Big fan.
Yeah.
Huge.
Well, absolutely. Wild quail populations have seen a tremendous downtrend in the last 30 years based on farming practices, predator situations, fire ants. The list goes on.
Really?
Sure. Fire ants are decimated. Young quail, eggs hatch, boom.
How about
fire ants
that?
eat the young. So
that's interesting.
Tough there. But squirrel season's open. So squirrel season's still open through March 1st. Raccoon season's open.
Hang on a second.
March 15th.
Squirrel season. I got to ask you about that. Who the heck wants to shoot a poor squirrel?
I do.
You know, there's a lot of people.
Just for sport. I don't even care about eating.
Now, I've claimed my share of squirrel. I've bagged my share of squirrel with my car, with my tires.
Okay, here we go.
And I really hate that. I feel really bad when that happens in the neighborhood. And you see the poor thing back there, on the ground.
We're finding more out about your driving inaccuracies than we need to.
To shoot a squirrel, first of all, is that good meat?
Yes. Squirrel Perlo is excellent. Squirrel hunting.
Do you eat squirrel?
With dogs. Squirrel hunting with dogs has been a popular. It's gotten very popular again in the last 10 years.
The dogs do it.
With dogs that treat the squirrels, barking, a lot of excitement. Some of our youth programs have really taken off in the squirrel hunting arena. I mean, folks, these kids love it. It's a great interest in the hunting.
Squirrel.
It's a lot of fun. The dogs barking. I mean, it's just good. It's a lot of fun.
All right, let's hit the phone here real quick. 800-956-7266. We're going to go to
Brian in York.
Brian from York. Hello, Brian of York.
Yeah, this is Brian. I haven't heard your entire segment, but I got one question about some free hunt days. Seems like I read in the book that there's some free hunt days on January 19th and 20th, or do I have that wrong?
Let me check on that. That's a good question because they've changed up in the last few days, last few years, the free hunt days.
Is that the book he's talking about?
Yes, that's the book he's talking about, the rules and regulations.
Captain comes prepared, man. He is prepared. He got the book with him. This
weekend, again, is the Youth Deer Day. I've got to look at the free hunt days. I'm going to find that because it's up here.
Page 55.
Oh, look at him. He's talking about page. He's going to tell me the page.
Page 55.
Phil, don't join in.
He knows his stuff.
It's not fun.
I want to see if, I wonder if that applied to deer season was my question.
No, it does not. It only provide any free hunt days only is only good for the season that is in at that time. So yes, free hunting days January 19th and 20th, and that would be for any season that's open during that time. It doesn't open deer season back up.
Basically, the only seasons that will be eligible for that are rabbit, quail, squirrel, and raccoons.
Rabbit, quail, yes. Yeah. And waterfowl.
Who eats
waterfowl?
Who eats raccoon?
Well, I thought you said waterfowl continues through the 27th. So yeah, we'll have one week left.
So for waterfowls, be careful there. For waterfowl, you'd have to have a federal duck stamp.
Tell me what you make with raccoon. With a raccoon.
nothing for me.
I was
But
going to say,
there
is
are
that
several
something?
people
Well, you can also sell the
that enjoy
the
it.
fur.
Yeah.
The fur.
But thanks for that question. So yes, free hunting days January 19th and 20th on private lands, and January 19th on WMA lands. This special opportunity is only valid for residents of South Carolina who do not have a current state hunting license. On those days, the individuals are permitted to hunt without a state hunting license or other required permits to include wildlife management areas or migratory waterfowl permit, formerly started at state duck stamp, on all lands in which hunting is allowed, including private lands and wildlife management areas.
All right, let's go to Jeff in Sumter.
Jeff, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Captain Downer, take over.
Doing great. What's your question?
Doing? I wrote one statement and then I got one question. You guys were asking about the coon. Some of the best barbecue I ever had come from barbecue raccoon.
Here we go.
But,
there it is, Phil.
But I mean, that's some good eating there if you clean them up right and cook them up right. But the question I got two nephews. You were talking about the youth hunt on this coming Saturday. You say you absolutely do not have to have tags. I mean, I know that you guys work hand in hand with the processors. I mean, how does that work? If I want to take my two nephews to hunt, I just want to make sure that everything.
That's an excellent question. Here's the deal. On Youth Hunting Day, the point of that day is to allow young people to be able to hunt, and to encourage them to go out, to get people like yourself to take your nephews out and let them enjoy the great outdoors. And so one of the things we don't want to do is have restrictions that would keep them from going. For instance, if they didn't have a tag, well, they can't go on that day. So on a youth deer day like this Saturday, there are no tags required. That's correct. No tags required. Again, only age 17 and under can hunt on this day. If they have never taken a hunter education course, they're required to be accompanied by someone age 21 years of age or older. But so they can go this weekend. Your nephews, specifically your question, can go this weekend. There's no tag required for them.
Open all over the state.
All over the state. They can take up to 2 deer. They can be either sex. They can take a limit of 2 deer. Tags are not required.
Okay.
So what if it's
his question was about the processor?
Yeah.
And again, this is in the rules and regulations. The processor has a question. He can look at that.
What page?
And that would be, Phil, hold on. I'm getting into it. That's going to be in the deer section. Hold on page 60. For those of you wanting the number, 60.
60 in your program, but number 1 in your heart.
No license or tag requirements for youth, period.
All right. We wrap it up with comments about the nearby Watery Range out here in the Columbia area.
Watery Range continues to be a spotlight. That's the old Indigo Club for those that's traveled on 378 back and forth from Sumter to Columbia.
Not too far from the old Sedgewood Golf Course.
Correct.
Yes.
So
it's just closed, right?
The Indigo
it's open, but
Gun Club
it's
was about.
It's open, but it's closed.
Are we through with golf yet?
Sorry, go ahead.
This is SC Wild, not golf.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So the Watery Range is still spotlight for us. It's located at 14068 Garners Ferry Road in Eastover. We have skeet, trap, 5 standing sporting clays available. It basically, to shoot the sporting clay course, it's a 8-station course, 50 targets. It's $10.
Are they open at night?
It is not open at night. We're open.
How about in the spring, summer?
We're open 9 to 5, Tuesday through Saturday.
I want to go out there and do a show.
Now, we are open. We are doing some limited evening shooting right now for our youth teams so they could practice 2 days
when
a
it
week.
gets warmer. Well, it is warmer.
But
when it gets warmer,
when it gets less wet.
We are constructing a rifle and pistol range to add there that will be open to the public and be free.
Could we?
There'll be a 14-station rifle range and a 12-station pistol range if we can get the range stopped long enough to get it completed.
We should do a opening of that range, do a show out there for SC Wild.
Well, we should do one of our segments out there, like we did with the archery
YouTube video of Phil shooting a large caliber.
I don't want to be. I don't want to be there during that.
That was in my youth days. I am much more experienced with this now.
I don't want to be anywhere.
Excellent.
I don't want to be anywhere.
I consider myself
Kornblut is brandishing a weapon.
A marksman. I consider myself a marksman. Happy New Year, Captain.
Remember, stay safe and shoot often.
If I'm in the state with you and a weapon in your hand, I'm in range. That's what I'm afraid of.
It might accidentally slip out of my hands and point towards your midsection.
Stop it.
That'll do it. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on Sports Talk.